touch on, you mentioned that a lot of, culture and traditions are passed down through oral tradition.
Yeah.
So why is it important for you to document that here, and why is it important for you as you've moved to America to kind of keep those traditions going?
Yeah, because I came here and realized that, Chicago, for instance, can see kind of thrives in I would say segregation in such a way, not in a negative way. The Polish community live there, do their thing, and they're Chicagoans to the core. They're Americans to the core, you understand? But this is where we have the largest concentration of Polish people from Poland in the world, apart from Warsaw, Poland. So even in the major cities like Gdansk in Poland, we don't have as many Polish people as we have in Chicago, and we can identify them as Polish, even though they are Chicagoans. We have the Irish community. We have the Jews. We have concentration of they're all Americans. So here, I've seen that we cannot run away from the fact that we have Igbo Americans. So during the last census, we narrowed our race to Igbo. So when you're counting me as American, you're counting an Igbo American, just like we have Irish Americans or whatever, So that is the main driving force, because a lot of these things that we do today, sometimes they sound mythical, but it's a fact of history. I'm actually just doing a little short story book on social life in an Igbo community before the coming of the Europeans and all that. Well, the Europeans may have been from the seashore, come to part of Igbo land then, but then a lot of the communities were still living on their own. Africans. Incidentally, the first Africans that were moved to the frontier areas of the United States came from that part of Nigeria, called the Bight of Biafra. That was where the ship moved a lot of the people. So most of them were Igbos. Some could have been from other smaller languages around there. So they settled in Virginia and all those places. So the core of the Americans who are black today, who live in that part of frontier area, were Igbos. So and sometimes if you don't tell the stories of how the people live, it will look as if, where were we from? Well, we actually just plucked out from trees and stuff and brought here. But no, the answer is no, that they were living their own life, have traditions, have mores, have cultures, have festivals, huge festivals that had rules and regulations and everything, had their own form of education. When Western education came, the Igbo people accepted it fully. Like initially, there were initial restraints, like, oh no, this is my first son, he's my heir. So I will send my youngest son, who doesn't go with me to the farm, to go, let him go and learn this your education. So initially, those that got the opportunity to go to school were those who were not quite favored by the parents. My son has to be in farm with me to learn, because he's going to take over someday. So please, they will buy yam tubers and buy roosters, get roosters, and take wine, cakes of palm wine to the headmaster or the teacher and say, please. It's okay, I will let him be, But when the pressure comes again from the colonial masters, they will go get him again to school for a while, and the parents will go, oh, please, let him, he has to go to the farm with me. he's my hair, So,
wow.
Yeah, but eventually, later, in the early part of, the 1900s, the communities made a law, like in my own community, every kid should go to the farm, but as soon as you hear that huge gong, let them all get together to that point. Leave your farm implements wherever and run to school. And then they sang it in the local dialect. Gong gong boya luji boya lede jaba kuko. So everybody has that gong. Oh, it's time for school. So they made it, and everybody had some education then. and were able to train their children. That's why you get these communities, find out professors today, so a lot of them retired already. So education was there, but they had it their own way at that time, oral education, passed on from generation to generation. When I was a kid, I remember my dad and some other elders in the community used to get us all together every evening under the moonlight, and tell us stories. So that's how the oral tradition was passed on. Every kid looked forward to it. They tell you about your community, tell you about, stories about, folk stories about the tortoise and some of these animals and stuff like that, the other humans and spirits. A lot of the things that I noticed were things that even happened, really happened for real, like the slave thing. You talk about hideous masquerades that came and took children overseas. We call it offici in my own language. And so the kids were left alone at home, and the parents said, don't talk, because huge spirits are moving around looking for kids to pick up, So one of the kids made a noise, and then the spirits came and took him or took the kids. So some of them you relate to what happened. Well, we know now how the people, the slave hunters moved people out. So every kid gets to the square to sit down, they play, and then the others come sit down and tell the stories. So these were just part of the things that I feel that we have to impart on the Igbo community here. Because they're the Americans, right? But they are still Igbos.
I know you refer to yourself as Igbo-American.
Yes.
Would you think of yourself as Nigerian-American in any way, shape or form, or not really?
Oh, yeah, that's a very good question. I'm a Nigerian-American. The passion for trying to understand where you come from emanates from the fact that Nigeria as a nation was put together in 1914, when the North and the South, South and the Northern and Southern protectorates that they had then were, amalgamated. And then they made a Lord Lugard, then, the governor, the governor of both regions, and then they said, okay, this is now the territory known as Nigeria. So before then, the country today called Nigeria had existed. The various groups had done their trades together. Lagos had been a seaport. Bonny had been a seaport, and the Igbo people that never really operated as a nation, but as different groups, had all done businesses with other, ethnic groups, the Igalas, the Edos, the area that was called Benin at that time. So these things had happened before Nigeria was formed. These nations had existed. Even in Yoruba, which is one of the largest ethnic groups in Nigeria, about the second largest, they had kingdoms, Ife, Oyo, and so many of them. These were, the Egbas lived, the Jebus, and did their things, used their tribal marks and other things to identify, the people. Like those tribal marks also helped not to take their children away as slaves. Because when you see that marks, no, you can't touch this person. So the politics, life and politics had existed before Nigeria. You understand? Now, before long, we'll begin to see that the Igbos are not just Nigerians from parts of southeastern Nigeria, but a group of people with earliest recordable roots from same area known today as Igbo land, who are now located, in all parts of the world, with hubs in Nigeria, the United States, Haiti, Jamaica, Belize, and in fact, all over Central America and South America, and in Europe, North America, in UK, all over the world. That we're Nigerian Americans, you know. But then the ethnic group, your background is Igbo. So
excellent. So look.